Nova Nessus believes dairy deserves more. That's why its biosolutions are designed to take your dairy to the next level, delivering better flavor, texture, and clean label appeal while supporting sustainability and efficiency. With over 100 years of expertise and science-backed innovation, Nova Nessus helps you create products consumers love and trust. Ready to transform your dairy? Visit novanessus.com and discover how Nova Nessus can elevate your business. Now on to the show.
This is the Dairy Download, brought to you by EverAg Insights and the International Dairy Foods Association, where we offer extra sharp market and policy insights on dairy. I'm your host, Phil Plord, an advisor to EverAg and the director of the Wisconsin Dairy Products Association.
And I'm your co-host, Kathleen Wolfley, head of Insights at EverAg.
This week's episode is all about protein and fiber in dairy. Our guests are here to tell us what their companies do to bolster the healthy benefits of dairy products. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, Kathleen, where are we now?
Well, Phil, CME spot prices as of Friday, May 29th. CME block cheddar closed at $1.48, 3 cents lower on the week. Spot butter closed at $1.67, up 13 cents. And the spot non-fat dry milk market finished at $2.09, 2 cents higher. Phil, what do you think is the most important thing right now?
Well, the most important thing right now is I still think it's the most important thing last time, or the last couple of times we've talked, which is the squeeze on consumers, mostly driven by higher energy prices. Now, gasoline hasn't continued to go higher. In fact, it's kind of rolled back a little bit over the weekend. We're still haven't cracked the $5 mark nationally. So it hasn't gotten worse, let's say, in the past 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks. At moments, it's gotten a little bit better, but it's still very real. And I just think when you look at things like restaurant traffic, especially QSR traffic, down pretty consistently since gasoline prices started going up. We have consumer confidence at the worst level since the University of Michigan began measuring it in 1978. And while while there's certain things where, watch what people do and don't listen to what they say. And, I was traveling this weekend. The airports are still full. The data says the airports are still busy and hotels are still booked and sit-down restaurants aren't doing terrible. It's not a disaster, but it has the potential to be more problematic. And I guess the point here is, without getting into the politics, the geopolitics of things, if we're going to be here for a while, and if there's risk for prices of gasoline to go even higher, that probably means more trouble ahead. Now, we don't know. Again, setting aside the war, the politics, and all those things, if this was a 60 to 90 day thing, all right, well, you kind of digest it and move on. But we are now we are more than that today, and we don't know when it's going to end. And I think that just puts strain on the system.
Well, and Phil, you were pointing out last week that there's still a lot of dollars that are sitting out there from IRS tax refunds, right? That because of the big, beautiful bill, there were a few more dollars that went back to consumers. So ultimately, that seems to be helping to balance things out, at least for now. But if we continue to see high gasoline prices, high crude oil prices, and ultimately inflation across things that people require to live life in the U.S., that could create some strain further on as we go through the year, too.
Yeah, I mean, the big, beautiful bill produced some stealth stimulus, let's say, whether it was in lower tax bills or bigger refunds or both. And so I've seen some estimates where that was as much as $40 billion into the economy. And the higher cost of gasoline is not much more than $25 billion at this point. So they even offset. And as we've been saying, if the gasoline price thing just lingers, then we're going to be like, whoa, where'd that money go?
Yeah, where'd that money go?
Yeah. So and we've been hanging on, and I would say this too in conclusion is that the labor market situation remains decent. We've seen low jobless claims. While we don't see huge amounts of job openings, it hasn't gotten worse. And so as long as people have jobs, I think we've got a chance. If we start seeing a rollback in employment, then I think we have a whole nother category of problems. What do you think is the most important thing right now?
I keep watching European milk production. We look at the weekly data, and French milk output. So if we consider Germany as number one producer, France is number two, French milk production down for the fifth consecutive week. For as of week 20, it was down about 0.7% year over year. So we're not talking about big declines in output, and looking at some stronger year over year comparisons. But I think it is notable that French milk output is starting to slip. Germany, on the other hand, remains quite strong with output for week 19 up nearly 6% year over year. Irish milk production mixed. I believe that the Dutch milk production situation is mixed as well. I think for me the big question is, at what point, if we will at all, will we start to see a decline in European milk production on a year over year basis? We're going to come up on some pretty strong year over year comps here within the next couple months. Is it logical that we'll see things start to turn negative on the whole within the next 60 to 90 days? Or is it going to be the fourth quarter before we start to see any pullback in supply?
I watch a lot of tennis, Kathleen, and so we have the Roland Garros, the French Open, and it's been very, very hot in France. You've had temperatures, especially for the season, 90, 95 degrees. I wonder if the decline in milk production that we've seen sequentially week to week is as much environmental as it is structural. We don't know, but it has been hot in France, especially. So that'll be interesting to see too. Is it a short-term thing? Is it part of a larger structural story? Because things look pretty good elsewhere, as you noted. So we'll see where this thing is going.
Yeah, I mean, from a U.S. perspective, we always say it takes longer than you think, right? And I've been applying that logic to Europe as well, especially as we've seen those milk prices creep back higher compared to what we were looking at earlier on in the year. I don't know. Generally, I think that this is the most important story to me because Europe is a major competitor into the international market. And if the US is facing headwinds on demand here domestically, we're going to need to find an export outlet to move some of that product.
And as you know, we got to keep finding those export outlets.
My stat of the week is 1,098. That is the volume of new crop butter that's traded on the CME in 2026. So new crop, for those of you that are relatively new to the CME butter market inner workings, any product that is produced prior to December 1st of, let's say, 2025 is no longer eligible for sale in Chicago as of March 1st. So this is product that was made between December 1st of 2025 and current. That's a lot of stinking butter that we've traded in Chicago over this time frame. If I'm not mistaken, it's a
There
near
have been some
record
years,
high.
Kathleen, where we haven't
Yeah,
traded that much butter. Full years.
full years. I don't know what it means from a where do we land for the year, and does it keep pressure on the marketplace? It sure seems like it's kept a bit of a thumb on the market here in recent weeks, though we have picked up here, even though last week we saw 100+ lots trade in Chicago. Lots of questions, maybe not a ton of answers, but I think it is astonishing that we continue to see such heavy volume of new crop butter trading.
But I would argue that this is really it is largely a supply story, right? Because domestic demand for butter, retailer, we've seen pretty decent deals at retail. Volume is up. I think the export volumes are healthy. So it's really about every day there's more fat.
Yep. Okay, what's your stat of the week?
Well, I'm going to go back to the consumer squeeze conversation. And just statistically, every month, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis publishes income and outlays data, and they publish something called the personal savings rate. And it's essentially a number that measures the gap between expenses, income every month, and expenses every month. And that rate came in at 2.6% in April. And that's the lowest reading since June of 2022. Not coincidentally, 2022 is when we were coping with some real serious post-COVID inflation, right? That's right around the time that inflation peaked in that period. And so it's just a measure of, if you think things are tight, 2.6% says they're tight.
Drum roll. What's your fearless prediction?
Oh, I don't know, Kathleen, if it's fearless, but it's a prediction. So one of the interesting things about this non-fat dry milk market we've seen is the lag and drag, right? The way people price things in the day-to-day market. There's a lot of, it took a long time for the NDPSR to get above $2. The spot market was above $2 for weeks and weeks and weeks before the NDPSR caught up. Well, the same thing tends to be true on the other side, is that the CME market may have peaked already and may be turning the corner, but it's a long time before the pricing goes in the other direction. So I'm going to tell you that I believe that the NDPSR price for non-fat in the US will drop below $2 by, let's say, August 15th. Let's say somewhere between the 4th of July, Independence Day, and Labor Day. August 15th is when we will see that price come back below $2.
The futures market would seem to suggest, Phil, that that's a pretty unfearless prediction.
Come on, man.
I'm going to double down with an unfearless prediction. How about that? I'll make yours sound like it's climbing Mount Everest. I think we've peaked in the CME non-fat market for 2026.
Set the bar low enough, Kathleen, and anyone can clear it.
Oh, gosh. All right, Phil, let's get to our first guest.
We're excited today to have Dr. Junrui Cheng with us. Junrui is a senior nutrition scientist at Ingredion, specializing in dietary fiber and prebiotic research, highlighting their roles in metabolic health and digestive health. She leads studies on Ingredion's soluble fibers, prebiotics, and resistant starch. Junrui, welcome to the Dairy Download.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role with Ingredion and the work you do around the protein and fiber space?
Of course. So in my role, I primarily support our fiber solutions platform, working across R&D and claim substantiation. So a big part of what I do is making sure that the claims we put forward for our fiber products meet regional regulatory standards, and just as importantly, actually make sense for how those products are being used in real applications. And while dairy is a very important area, I would like to say that my work really goes beyond dairy into a broader range of food and beverage applications. And although I'm not directly part of the protein solutions platform, I work very closely with my nutrition science colleagues on that side. And together we develop go-to-market materials that help clearly communicate the science and health benefits behind pea protein, plant-based proteins, and protein in general. So the goal of my role and for Ingredion Nutrition Center is really to translate complex nutrition science into clear, credible messaging, especially how fiber and protein support health at different life stages and how consumers can think about fiber and protein choices in a practical, evidence-based way.
How do you get here personally? Talk about your background and how do you become a fiber expert, an ingredient expert, and a food scientist?
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to touch that topic. So my training is always in nutrition science. I got my master's in nutrition epidemiology and my PhD in biochemical and molecular nutrition at Tufts University. And my passion is in nutrition as well. Um, so my background, I'm from China. My family always culturally really pay highly attention to healthy eating. So I really love to combine my academic expertise with my real life and to help my family, my friends, and my colleagues as well to seek for a healthier lifestyle by incorporating more physical activities and a healthier eating pattern. So yeah, nutrition science is always my passion.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a simple question here. Why is fiber so important and how does it tie in with dairy?
I may approach this question from a health perspective. So as nutrition scientists, a big part of what we do is help dairy brands strengthen the value proposition of their products. And we do that by providing science-based solutions that can enable credible health-related claims on the final product. For example, some of our soluble fibers are also prebiotic fibers, meaning that they can support benefits such as gut health or metabolic health. And when these solutions are incorporated into dairy products, they can make those products more appealing to consumers who are actively pursuing specific health goals in these areas.
I keep thinking to myself that if I was on the marketing team, protein's a little bit easier to market than fiber is because I think protein, I think muscles, I think fiber, I think Metamucil. So, I think I imagine from your role, there's a fairly similar, how do I spin this and take the information around fiber and make it really accessible for people to understand?
I think it will be so important for us as nutrition scientists to translate the science from lab bench to the realistic application. So what we do is that we will leverage the totality evidence of the existing literature and translate those science and data into layman language to help consumers better understand the health benefits of the product. And of course, it has to be comply with the regulatory standard as well.
Certainly, protein has dominated the headlines for at least a year, if not two, and it's continues to roar on strongly here to 2026. But I keep hearing that fiber is next, or fiber is kind of right there, ready to have its moment. Can you talk about that and what that means, and the why beyond what maybe you've already told us?
The reason why people think fiber is so important is because now for the most majority of the American population, we do not consume enough fiber. And actually, we even consume half of the recommended amount of fiber that FDA recommended. So this is why it is so important to formulate those products with additional fiber. And to be honest, it is really challenge for the consumers to take, to consume a sufficient amount of fiber because first, the fiber concentration in the dairy products are not so sufficient. It's very limited. So that is why it will be wise to formulate more dietary fibers into dairy products. Also, fiber is so critical to provide really important physiological benefits to consumers, like especially for fermentable fibers. It can be used by the gut microbiota. And as we know, the gut microbiota, they're not just really passive consortia. They are active modulators for immune health, metabolic health, muscle health, etc., because they promote the crosstalk between gut and other organs in human body to provide those multiple health benefits. So that is why fiber consumption is not only intended to bridge the gap of the daily nutrient consumption, but also provide additional health benefits to consumers.
And I know enough, I think, to understand that apples are high in fiber, and this is high in fiber, and you maybe should eat Triscuits instead of wheat thins because there's more. I mean, I get some of those basic things, but how do you, for lack of a better word, how do you sneak fiber into dairy products? What's the formulation challenges involved with that?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest formulation challenges I see is that there are very few soluble fibers that can be incorporated into dairy products at low use levels while still meeting the dosages shown in clinical trials to deliver measurable health benefits. And a big reason for that is when clinical studies were designed, researchers don't always take category-specific upper use limits like those for dairy into their consideration. So as a result, the effective dose demonstrated in a study may be much, much higher than what can realistically be added to a dairy product, especially if the goal is to support a structure function claim in the US. And I think that really creates a real gap between the science and what's feasible in formulation.
So, how do you make a product that can a claim of being high fiber, but also have the functionality and taste of a yogurt or a beverage that you know and love, and also the texture too? I'm guessing texture is a big one as you add fiber.
Yes, I'm so glad that you asked this question because Ingredion is an expert not only in health food solution but also in texture solution. So we realized that quantity is not a real problem, but we also focus on the quality and the functionality of fiber, and not only fiber, for protein as well. And we understand that as fiber and protein levels increase in dairy products, they not only impact the sensory of the product, but also the process. And we believe that this can be overcome through fiber and protein selection and blending, not relying on fiber or protein alone, but tritexture systems containing things like starches, pectin, or citrus fiber that can help with stability, sedimentation, and mouthfeel. And on the flavor side, we have a lot of clean tasting ingredients that can help modulating, the taste of the product. And we think that by using a data-driven solution approach in this case, instead of a lot of trials and errors, these can help us optimize the finding of solutions and get to them faster.
So I know this is a dairy show, and I think that's all quite interesting. But just under that bigger umbrella of expect to see more fiber talk or fiber products or fiber this and that, can you talk a little bit about where we might see fiber more in our day-to-day food life here in the United States in the months ahead, and what kind of technologies are driving that process or inclusion?
Yeah, I think one really trending topic is that is about personalized nutrition. And I think this personalized nutrition is going to play a much bigger role in the future. And that's because people's needs for both the quantity and quality of fiber, of course, protein as well, vary widely depending on their life stage, gender, and individual health goals. So I think ideally, I love to see an AI-driven tool that can help translate this complexity, something that connects consumer health goals with evidence-based ingredient solutions and practical formulation guidance. In addition to personalization, I believe that the continued development of functional ingredients, especially prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, and symbiotics, will create very exciting new opportunities in the dairy category. So if we take yogurt as an example, it'll be really interesting to understand which dietary fibers, and as you know, some fibers are also prebiotics, can synergistically interact with the probiotics that are already existing in the dairy product. And I believe that kind of insight could help design true symbiotic dairy products that are more targeted, whether the goal is gut health, metabolic health, or other specific outcomes.
And in terms of, let's say, undiscovered or unknown sources of fiber, so yeah, psyllium, right? We know that that's what goes into some of the the metamucils and that kind of stuff. But where else should we or could we be leaning on fiber as both as a food to eat as well as an ingredient?
Well, there are a lot of sources. You can surely extract fibers from plant sources. We can also use synthetic fibers, which also have physiological benefits. For example, our short-chain false Nutriflora, it is a FDA-recognized dietary fiber, and it has benefits in supporting mineral absorption and bone health. So I think to address this, we are actively looking for solutions through a build, borrow, and buy mindset. And that means expanding our R&D capabilities, not only internally, but also through external partnerships, new technologies, and strategic collaborations beyond Ingredion. So overall, I think our goal is to identify or develop fiber solutions that can deliver meaningful health benefit at lower application appropriate dosages, and to make it easier for dairy brands to innovate while also staying compliant and be consumer friendly.
Well, Junrui, we really appreciate you joining us on the Dairy Download and teaching us a lot more about fiber and the ingredients that are available for dairy manufacturing.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Now let's get the view from Idaho. We are joined today by Venkat Sunkesula. He is their Vice President of Research and Development at Idaho Milk Products, where he leads pioneering work in milk protein ingredients and high-protein dairy and food products. With over 25 years of cross-sector experience spanning the dairy science, confectionery, brewing, and chemical industries, Dr. Sunkesula brings a rare blend of technical depth and strategic vision to the forefront of food innovation. Venkat, Welcome to the Dairy Download.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, so before we get into all the nitty-gritty questions, can you tell us first about Idaho Milk Products and your role with the company?
Sure, happy to walk you through the Idaho Milk Products. Idaho Milk Products produces high quality milk derived ingredients, but more importantly, we see ourselves as a partner to the companies shaping the future of food. We are farmer owned, vertically integrated manufacturing plant located in Jerome, Idaho, which gives us a unique level of control from farm to finished ingredients. That model allows us to deliver exceptionally consistency, functionality, and reliability to our customers. Now, coming to my role at Idaho Milk Products, as Vice President of Research and Development, my role is to translate milk's natural potential into ingredients that help us and our customers to succeed. That means leading scientific innovation, supporting real world applications, and making sure what works in the lab performs just as well at full commercial scale. At Idaho Milk Products, R&D exists to enable better food, nutritionally, functionally, and sustainably.
Okay, so Idaho is kind of in the middle of nowhere. We should think about all the different food products that are available and your background. So how did you find yourself at IMP?
It's a great place to work. I mentioned we are owned by dairy farmers. They are really visionary and they believe in science. That makes me very happy and engaged in what I'm doing at Idaho Milk Products.
Can you go into more detail about your Milk Innovation Center and the type of work that you're doing there?
Sure. So, our Milk Innovation Center is where deep dairy science meets practical food applications. It's highly collaborative environment. A team of 12 work together very closely, cross-functionally across product development, process optimization, analytical testing, and direct customer collaborations and engagements. We focus on understanding how our ingredients behave, not just compositionally, but functionally. That puts us in a unique situation in delivering our customer commitments. It also includes how the proteins and other ingredients disperse, stabilize, emulsify, and perform in real finished goods systems. A major goal is helping customers move faster with confidence. We support formulation development, prototype testing, and process validation so ideas can be translated smoothly from concepts to commercialization.
Okay, so can you give us a fun example of what the Milk Innovation Center has done? Is there a product that you look at and say, this has gone from point A to point B all through the Milk Innovation Center?
I can think of two such really proud moment for all of us. So we were able to alter the functionality of the milk proteins, which enables our customers to create clean label and higher protein per serving beverages. And that has been successfully running in the market. And it's completely aligned with the consumer trends. And number one is health and wellness, which is hot topic nowadays. And clean label is another trend. So consumers are more aware and they're paying attention on the number of ingredients and the type of ingredients. They don't want to see the difficult to pronounce ingredients on the label panel, and they don't want to see any chemically sounding the ingredients. At the same time, they want to look or would like to have a fewer and fewer ingredients on the nutritional ingredient panel. So related to that development work, we were proud about it. So that ingredient, milk protein ingredient, helps our customers to achieve these consumer goals.
So how did it work? Did you have this grand idea of, hey, how do we make a clean label product or a high protein product that's extremely functional? And you bring in the milk and then you start testing. How long does that testing period last? Is it a few months? Is it a few years?
So this is definitely few years project, cross-functional collaboration, uh, and I would say it took us almost 6+ years from the concept evaluation to benchtop creation and full-scale testing, including shelf stability, performance of the product, and changing the flavor profiles, making it more acceptable to consumers.
That's awesome. But what a cool way to think about milk in a different way and be able to test and show that your testing and your years of work can come up with a really interesting product. Let's think about health. As you mentioned, and as we all know, health is top of mind for so many customers and consumers. Protein is one of those big hot topics. How is Idaho Milk Products helping to meet the demand for protein?
I could not agree more than that with you. Is health is absolutely top of mind for today's consumers, and protein has become central to that conversation. At Idaho Milk Products, we help meet the demand by unlocking the full nutritional and functional value of milk proteins. Through our R&D and Milk Innovation Center, we work closely with our customers to develop protein solutions that fit wide range of consumer and customer needs. Meaning, the range goes from clean label beverages to nutritional forward foods, just like I mentioned a few minutes before. The goal is to make it easier for our partners to bring high protein products to market with confidence, knowing those ingredients will perform reliably at full commercial scale. Ultimately, we see at Idaho Milk Products the protein, milk protein particularly, not as a trend, but as a long-term foundation for better nutrition. And our role is to help make that nutritional qualities of the milk proteins accessible, enjoyable, and scalable for our customers and consumers.
Okay, let's think beyond protein. How are you innovating dairy products in other ways to boost nutritional values?
That's a good question. Beyond protein, we focus on enhancing the full nutritional value of milk by preserving its natural nutrients by way of the way we manage the milk production at our owner farms, and then how we handle from owner farms to the manufacturing site. The full nutritional, we strive hard to retain the full nutritional quality of the milk ingredients. It's beyond proteins. There are several small amount of highly health supporting ingredients naturally available in the milk. We try our best to retain those proteins through our process technologies, the way we manage the production operations, handling milk and the finished goods, and designing ingredients that align with today's health and clean label expectations is one of our focus area when you think about what we do beyond proteins. At the same time, those ingredients must still deliver great taste and reliable performance. By integrating the nutritional science and functionality in manufacturing realities, we help customers create dairy based products that are both healthy and enjoyable to consume.
Let's talk about the fat. Your company is investing in a new ice cream facility. What trends are you seeing for ice cream and other dairy indulgences?
I will talk about the fat in a moment, but I would start about the investment. Ice cream remains one of the most emotionally connected food categories, no doubt in that. It's all about enjoyment. But consumer expectations are evolving and much faster nowadays. So we are seeing strong demand for better for you indulgence, still indulgence, but consumers would like it to be better for you category, especially high protein formulations aligned with health and wellness trends, which we spoke about, along with cleaner label and dairy forward products. Consumers are now clearly aware of the fact not all the proteins are same. There are several other protein types. Milk proteins had got its stronger position in terms of accepted by a lot of normal general consumers that these are high quality nutritionally superior proteins. At Idaho Milk Products, so we have been working on high protein ice cream formulations for years, so many years, and have successfully developed multiple recipes that show how milk proteins and cream can deliver both nutrition and great sensory performance. Now, talking about the cream, so again, the awareness of the consumers is much evolved about the cream. It's not necessarily a bad fat, it's a good fat. There's so many health benefits. Research have studied nutritional and medical research is available, they're accessible, and then there is a switch and change in the mindset. Dairy fat is good, if not. Now, our new ice cream plant will also have a powder blending facility, which is not about adding capacity, it is about enabling new formulations, new possibilities, and creating value for our co manufacturing customers, particularly as demand grows in areas like, I'm switching back to the novelty ice cream context. There's a demand that is growing for novelties. It also helps meeting the consumer trends of shorter portions, but more nutritional available in that small serving size, where there is simply it's not enough capacity in the market today. With the right dairy science, indulgence does not have to mean a compromise. It can be enjoyable, nutritionally relevant, and scalable for more model brands.
Here's the $1,000,000 question. If you were to have a lineup of products, dairy products, and you've worked in the industry for a long time, what is your favorite high protein product and what's your favorite ice cream?
I would say milk as it is, whole milk. Talking about the cream and the protein, it's a beautiful nature's creation, delivering what all we are supposed to have on a daily basis. So my favorite has been always whole milk.
That's a unique answer.
Yes. Ice cream, yes. So I'm still a traditional vanilla favorite, and with added high protein and a combination of high fat. It's not necessarily protein, high fat and high protein is my favorite again. So let me put this way. So morning, whole milk, evening, high protein, high fat ice cream.
Well, Dr. Sunkesula, really appreciate you joining us on the Dairy Download and telling us a little bit more about what Idaho Milk Products has been up to and a bit more about how you interact with dairy ingredients.
It's my pleasure talking to you guys.
That's a wrap for today's show. Thank you once again to our sponsor for this episode, Novanestis. As always, we want to thank our production team, Mariah Minnick, Andrew Jerome, and Jeff Cullen at IDFA, and Abby Bauer over here at Everag. If you are interested in what Kathleen and I do for our day jobs, check us out at ever.ag. And remember, if you liked the show, hit the subscribe button and leave us a positive review on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks for listening to the Dairy Download. Until next time, stay sharp.